watched Oregon choke away a game against TCU. This was my then new wife's first Oregon football game. She was just beginning her descent into madness over a college football team. I vowed never to go back because of the bad memories. For the last few days, my wife has been asking me about going to the game because Oregon is playing in it again. My response has always been either, what are we gonna do with our 3 kids, or that game is cursed, I'd rather watch it from my home, so if it's another implosion I can turn it off. After having one last conversation just now, and me explaining I don't want to go because I have a deep and gripping fear that this game will go sideways, she goes back to her work. A few minutes later, she tells me she needs to talk to me about something and proceeds to give me an early Christmas present of, you guessed it, tickets to the game. Not just any tickets, but 50-yard line front row tickets. I'm completely blown away, over the moon and excited. Yes, completely embarrassed, because today I effed up by making my lovely wife think I didn't want an amazing gift she put an incredible amount of thought into. Okay, this next one is by Charlie B220. It is titled, Today I Effed Up by locking up my kids' Christmas presents and losing the key. Over the past week, my wife and I have been collecting and storing our 2 kids' Christmas presents in a tool room that's attached to the house. Yesterday around noon, we received a big gift, so I removed a folding table and my daughter's bike from the shed to make room. I locked up the door and went to bring the bike around back. Fast forward 3 hours later and my wife is home and wants to get a head start on wrapping the gifts. But the key is gone. The key is on a separate keychain. I have absolutely no idea what I did with this keychain. If it was in my pocket, it could have fallen out in any place I sat. I've checked all those places. I checked any surface indoors and out that I could have absent-mindedly placed the key upon. I've checked the usual spots I put my car keys, all to no avail. Now we have upwards of $600 of presents sitting unwrapped in an inaccessible shed, and I have no plan for how to retrieve them prior to Christmas. Edit. Ended up calling a locksmith. researching and decided on a nice joystick thrust controller combo, then used their Amazon account to order it. In the meantime, she forgot all about it. A few days later, she comes to me with a printout of her recent purchases and a concerned look on her face. "Honey," she says, "what exactly is a thrustmaster?" Oh, it's pretty funny. Okay, this next one. Today I effed up by inviting an old friend from college to move in with me and ruining my Christmas. The actual effort of inviting him to move in happened back at the beginning of September, but today is more or less the culmination of that decision. An old friend from college reached out over the summer and we started chatting again after about 4 years. We met through a club I presided over while there, and were pretty tight throughout our last 2 years of university. After graduating, we drifted apart as we both moved in different directions, so it was nice that he put the effort in to reach out and reconnect. He was living on the West Coast and had lost his job during the initial pandemic lockdown. He was unable to find work in his field during that time, and like many, was unable to pay rent during that period. Sorry about my dog yawning. He was, however, working by this time and had been approved for rental relief, which would cover all missed payments. Well, his landlord decided that he was not going to renew his or his roommate's leases and planned on raising rent for the place by about 15%. I live in the Midwest, have been living with a single roommate for a while, but the landlord was now pushing to fill the extra room since the pandemic panic was beginning to wind down. It seemed like perfect timing. I could help him out and pay forward some of the kindness that I was shown when I moved here, while also having someone else up here with me, 900 miles away from home. Things started going south from day 1. On his way here, his car broke down. Fortunately, this happened 1,200 miles into his 1,300-mile trip, so I was able to come pick him up for the last leg. Turns out, his car's head gasket blew. Knowing what I know now about him, I would bet my money that he didn't even bother to check his oil before starting his 1,300-mile journey. I had already offered to cover his first month of rent, utilities and food in order for him to stretch the bit of his savings he had and get on his feet. Now I was essentially in a corner to also allow him to use my car. Fortunately, this wasn't too big of an issue for me as I now work from home and the pandemic special of depression. An obscene weight gain meant that I really only left the house to run to the store occasionally. I wasn't using it, so he might as well be. I suppose my true fuck up was just expecting consideration and responsibility from someone I am clearly going out of my way to help out. The annoyances started piling on immediately. He felt it perfectly acceptable to just burst in my room multiple times a day without knocking, even after I told him that he had to knock on the damn door and wait for a response. Then started taking things from my room. I would have snacks or a 2-liter, and he would wait until I was asleep or out of the room and just walk in and take them. He burned through his money in ridiculous cigarettes, multiple 1 liters, and fast food. Even though I kept plenty of food in the house and would cook dinner or order out every night for that first month. He was broke in a matter of just a few weeks. He finally gets a job towards the end of the first month, and instead of finding one of the many available for the same pay within our town, he decides to get one in the town over, knowing good and goddamn well that he didn't have the money to pay for gas for that. Whatever, at least he was working. After the first week, he started talking about quitting. I told him that was a real dumb idea, as he was going to be paying rent and bills the coming month. Plus, I was only allowing him to use my car through the beginning of November. I didn't want him on the roads in my car during this area's winter. So he continued working there, but found an excuse to call in at least 1 day a week for his first 4 weeks there. After a month, he gets wind of a job in the field he was pursuing out west. He applies and gets an interview, which he took off 4 hours early from work for just to get ready. Oh, he was just so sure he was going to get this job, so sure that he quit going to the other one. I finally asked about this, and he gave me the most bullshit excuse I've ever heard. They told me not to come in until I figure out whether I am getting the other job. Right, that's exactly what a short-staffed business would do. Well, I am sure you know where this is going. Surprise, surprise, he didn't get the job. There are many, many, many other instances of his douchey, self-entitled behaviour since moving here, but that would make an already long post even longer. Now, having been out of work 2 weeks, he has to find something else. He does, another job in the next town, one that requires him to use my car even more than the last. Reluctantly, I ease my deadline of mid-November and allow him to continue to use my car for the time being, letting him know that he is responsible for anything that happens to it under his care. That was about 5 weeks ago, which brings us to last Sunday. I had not driven the car for 5 weeks at this point. Anything I need I am able to have delivered, and his hours are all over the place, so I just have him pick up anything I am unable to have delivered. Last Sunday he was home due to the weather, and I needed cigarettes, so I took the car. Immediately as I back up the driveway, I am hearing metal on metal grinding coming from the rear wheels. Then, on my way to the store, there is a horrible and beyond obvious wobble to the car. I get back and ask him how long the brakes have been shot, to which he replies, "Oh, it's just the brake pads." I have never wanted to punch someone in the face so badly. I told him I knew it was the goddamn brake pads, but if he's driving with them in that condition, it's going to cost me my rotors. He just walks off. Wednesday, I am finally able to find someone to put on new pads and tell him to get it up there. He tells me Friday would be better for him. After telling him he's not using it until new pads are put on, he decides to comply. Of course, the rotors were trashed, along with that. However, I find out that one of the tyres is worn to the tread on the inside thanks to a broken control arm. Altogether, I am looking at $600 for the parts and repairs, and that isn't even with the new tyre. Now, what I haven't mentioned yet is that I have not been home in over 2 years. With the way my life had been going, just getting out of the house was a painful undertaking. But my mum was recently hospitalised, so I knew it was time to soak it up and make the trip. While she was eventually released, her health is not good, clearly see that money, as I am also telling him he is done using the car. Merry Christmas to me. Edit, for anyone that reads this, it just cost me another $400. My emergency brake was stuck. One of them denigrated, so it all had to be taken apart again. $1,100 down the drain, which was my budget for the trip. Luckily I'd been saving for the trip, so I had the money, but now I don't know that I can swing it. Edit 2 for anyone that might come across this. Dear, this guy's not having a good time. My entire wheel broke off on a trip to the gas station. Luckily it was not far from my house, but with that, I have officially lost my car. Some bolt snapped, having to do with the frame or something, and it's being looked at another $1,000 for parts and labour. Even then, this may have caused additional issues, so my only option is to sell it to a salvage yard for a quarter of its worth. Happy New Year. That guy is having a terrible time. I feel so sorry for him. That's awful. Okay, this one is by Kabuki Kitsune. Styled, today I have help by wanting some alone time to draw on Christmas Day. Bit of background, I've been homeless in the past. The whole sleeping under a bridge, eating from trash cans homeless. Even now, I find that some things from then are kinda hard to shake off. Like my tendency to wear what's warm and comfortable without really caring if it's, well, clean. So this mess up happened about 9 this morning. So about 3 hours ago, I had gone out across the street to sketch one of the local churches. Well, not directly across the street. It's on the corner. I live in the middle of the street, about 4 houses down. Not to attend the church, but because there was light snow on the ground, and I thought maybe doing some drawing would help me clear my head. No family at all, no presents, so no real Christmas. I sat down on a clean bench, took out my sketch pad and started to work, drawing a nice outline of the church, its park grounds, and the way the snow had lightly dusted it. About 15 minutes into this, an older lady comes out of her house into the area where I'm sitting and tells me that I can't be there, and if I don't leave, she's gonna call the police. I replied that it wasn't much of the Christmas spirit for her to be talking like that, and added that I wasn't technically on public property as far as I knew. Furthermore, I wasn't hurting anyone, so what was the big deal? In any case, the lady just clumped back inside, and then about 4 or 5 minutes later, a police officer approaches me. The lady comes out and starts going off on this rant about how the homeless are constantly making a mess in that area, begging for spare change, food, and all manner of things, when she was quite certain that people like me were just going to sell it to get drugs. The officer asks me what I'm doing at this point, and I show him the very rough sketch. He notes that and then asks me if I have any cash on me. I inform him that I only have my debit card and ask why. Long story short, the officer explains that since I don't have any cash on me, under the letter of the law, he could arrest me for vagrancy. However, since I do have my debit card and I'm not really doing anything overtly illegal, he's going to let it pass. I just need to go back to wherever it was I came from, or if not that, the local mission. I shrug, pack up my stuff, and head back across the street before opening a gate. This prompts the officer to ask me what I think I'm doing, to which I get a bit smart and reply, going home, I live here. The old lady starts going apeshit at this point, while the officer doesn't believe me ashes from their grandmother on Christmas. It took me a lot of courage to want to post this. A lot. So, I went over to my friend's house on Christmas Eve because we've had this tradition for 10 years to go back and forth celebrating Christmas at each other's houses. Apparently, he let his nephew rent a room out, and he kicked him out 2 days ago because he kept messing up the house completely and was very irresponsible overall. I agreed to help clean the place up before his family and a few of our friends came over tomorrow. I mainly swept, vacuumed and dusted, and threw out some empty alcohol bottles, plus took out some garbage. The house looked nice, smelled clean, and we were both proud of ourselves for cleaning so damn good. We ended up going to sleep not long after and woke up the next day around 6 a.m. to get prepared for everything. While I was searching for some eggnog to set out for everyone to drink, I came across an empty bottle of vodka hidden behind some bottles in the fridge that seemed to be filled with something that looked like cigarette ash. I obviously threw it away because in my mind, who would keep an empty bottle of vodka filled with the remains of a cigarette? Hours went by and people started arriving. We sat down, had a nice dinner, spoke about our favorite time, about the holidays, etc. My friend got up and went to his room, telling us to wait there for a second and that he'd be right back. Some of us were wondering what he was getting, most of us thinking it was some secret Santa event or a gift and so on. We pretty much just continued our conversation until we heard him freaking out in another room. First, most of us looked around, pretty shocked. I decided to get up and go check things out, telling everyone else at the dinner table to give me a minute. I entered the room and I saw most of his objects on the ground and his bed sheets ripped off. I was really shocked and asked him what was wrong. He then replied, telling me that his grandmother's ashes were gone. He used to keep them in a vase, but he recently put them in a necklace that he found out was owned by his grandma before she passed on. I started looking around with him until I remembered the vodka bottle. That was just cigarette ash, right? No way that'd be anything but that. Why would they be in there? He told me he thought his nephew had stole it until I looked under his bed and found the necklace, empty of any ash. I immediately started freaking out and told him what I threw away earlier, and he ran out the room and into the kitchen, digging into the garbage cans and not caring what anyone at the table who were there thought. I came out as well and awkwardly started digging through the cans too. I could sense everyone was uncomfortable by the energy going through the house. Luckily, he got the bottle. Unluckily, the ashes had fallen out of it when it was thrown away. In the end, I went home because I felt terrible and I could tell my friend was very hurt inside. I'm pretty sure his drunk nephew put the ashes in the bottle. I messaged him yesterday and he has yet to respond, so I feel like he hates me now. Someone said, sounds like an honest fuck up. That was no one's fault in particular. Yeah, it does. It's just a real shame. It's just a bad situation all around. He's obviously still grieving as well, which makes it worse. She looked up and said, "Jessica had a miscarriage." I don't think I've ever felt so horrible and awkward in all my life. She was very gracious about it though. We both cried a bit and I took the owner back and told it I would get her a new one. That's really, really rough. I don't think it's it's not their fault, it was a really sweet and thoughtful gift. It's just, unfortunately, that had occurred and you didn't know. It's really, really sad. Okay, this is going to be the last one for tonight. It's by Clary, 1974. It's titled "The Day I Effed Up by Buying My Grandmother an Inappropriate Christmas Gift." This took place some 20 to 25 years ago. First post on Reddit on mobile format. My nan passed away this year and I've been reminiscing a lot and I've remembered this story from years ago. In our family, we sometimes ask what someone would like for Christmas, or we give a list with specific items we would like. New car has historically been my first request, but never fulfilled. This particular year, I asked my nan what she would like. She said she needed an electric shaver specifically for her underarms. Fab, I can get that. It is what she wants and needs, and it's in my budget. So off to Argos I go. I rock up to the store and start browsing the catalogue, find the page for shavers and pick one. I pay and collect it and go home to wrap it for Christmas. Christmas Day comes, Nan opens present, is delighted. All is well. 2 weeks later, I am at work and Nan calls me on my work phone, barely able to get a word out. She has finally taken a closer look at her gift, closer than I looked at it, because I had not bought a specific underarm shaver, but a bikini trimmer with stencils, and she wondered if I thought Grandad would prefer her to have a lightning bolt or a heart. Oh my days, I thought this was hysterical and we were both losing it on the phone, crying with laughter. After the call, my work colleagues asked me what was going on, and when I told them, were horrified that I'd bought such a gift and that she'd called me to tell me about my mistake. I love that I have such a great relationship with her. I miss her. That's funny.